great to be here with you all. And Kylie and I, as Kyla had said, we've spent quite a bit of time travelling overseas. And over the last couple of days, we've had some great conversations that have gone around, investment funding, collaboration. We learned a lot about that this morning. And one of the underlying themes that is really critical to all of that is relationships. So we're here in one of the hardest slots, the second to last one on the second day. So we're just going to share some of what we saw overseas in our relationships that we saw working really well, some of our travels, and share some stories with you, really. Yeah, with conversation.
And just a sort of note that we're both very, very aware that it's a privileged position to be in, to be able to travel, to have the opportunity to go to other countries, to experience it. So, it's not like let's go on holiday. We're sharing our snaps with you, but we're very, very, very lucky for the position we're in. So, cool.
Yeah, so we just want to start with building relationships. It's not just about the transactions, it's the connections. And they are so important to be out there and in market. I mean, we're an export country. We're an exporter of products and an exporter of ideas. So one of the ones that I wanted to talk through was Qatar. So just hands up for those in the room. Who's been to Qatar?
1, 2, 3.
There is a few people. Yeah, no, that's really good. Yeah, so Qatar, it's a country in the Middle East. It is the third wealthiest country in the world with GDP per capita. Qatar is, the only country surrounding Qatar is Saudi Arabia. It's the only land border they have, and they have sea on the other side. The population is about half of what we have, 2.6 million. And Qatar is part of the GCC, which is the Gulf Cooperation Council, and that's 6 countries in the Middle East that work together on trade through land, sea, and air. So Qatar itself, before 2017, did not produce any dairy. They relied fully on Saudi Arabia to send their dairy across the border. In 2017, Qatar was accused of terrorism and being, in cahoots with the Taliban by the GCC. So overnight, they stopped getting dairy products and other products for that matter, but dairy was the big one that, it wasn't there in the supermarkets the next day. So the people in Qatar are very proud, right? They don't go to the supermarket and there is no food there, right? That is not how they operate. So they thought, right, well, we've got to fix this problem. So they very quickly set to developing their own food system and their own supply of dairy. What they did is within 10 months, they built a 25,000 cow dairy unit with Holstein Friesians basically flown over from Europe. That's how they dealt with that. Qatar is a desert, so there's not much access to water. So what they did there was they built desalination plants. Right? So the whole purpose of that was for them to be self-sufficient in dairy production. It worked. They are. Right? They've done a really good job. They've also imported ideas, so they didn't develop this themselves. They looked at systems overseas, and they had a really good relationship with the UK. So farmers from the UK flew over to Qatar to help them build the system. Now, then Qatar thought, right, cool. We've got this great plan, this great idea here. Now, maybe we could help others, right? So they can't export the products because it's not economical, not when you're doing desalination. So then they thought, right, well, what about the idea, right? The actual structure and the program that they've built for producing dairy. So they went around, they talked and built relationships with other countries. So you can see on that map that, they went to Algeria. So this is a relationship that's been 4 years in the making. And 2 months ago, in April this year, they signed an agreement with the Algerian government that they are putting in a $3.5 billion program, like an investment, to basically develop a dairy system for them. So the plan that Algeria wanted was they wanted to be 50% self-sufficient for their population of 45 million, that they had enough milk powder to feed 50% of that population. So Qatar was like, great, we can help, right? We know what your problem is. We have, we've done some work. Let us work together on this. And they spent the whole COVID time building that relationship with that government. What they also agreed is for the plants that they're going to grow, not grow, you don't grow them, but that they build there, that Qatar will have 51% of the operating majority, so they will control that. They'll control that food system, and that's all built on trust. right, with the Algerian government. They've done the same thing in the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia. These are the people we're competing with, right? They are in market. They are out there talking to these governments, building those MOUs and agreements, right? They've done a really good job of that. And they've built a really strong system that addresses some of the problems that these other countries are also facing.
Are we there? Are we in the market over there?
In Qatar?
Yeah.
Yes. So I went out, when you're in these markets, right, like I love going to supermarkets in other countries. It's my favourite place to be. I love to see what they have there.
Quite sad.
And yeah, that's how I do it. I go to another country, first thing I do, go to the supermarket. I actually like to see what New Zealand products they have. And I went over to their meat section because in Qatar they do eat a lot of meat there, like a lot of goat and a lot of beef as well. Beef is really big there. And so I went straight to the meat section. I also like meat. I'm from a dairy farm and now beef farm in Southland. So, you know, that's my background. And they had New Zealand meat there, so I was quite proud. I was like, yes, okay, good. And from that meat, like, where do you think that sat? Because they had local meat that they had imported meat from Australia and they had imported meat from New Zealand. We were the bottom. We were the cheapest. And the reason that is we don't have an embassy in Qatar. Our closest is in Abu Dhabi. Australia does. So Australia spends a lot of time in Qatar, have built these relationships with them, and we haven't done that. Now, it may have been a strategic choice that we chose not to go after there in Qatar, but they have a lot of money there. So it's a missed opportunity not to. Yeah, well, how about you, Kylie? What did you see overseas in your travels?
Oh, yeah, okay. I was like, in Qatar, I've never been.
Trying to encourage her.
Yeah, but so earlier in February, I was really lucky to attend Fruit Logistica in Berlin. So for those that don't know, Fruit Logistica is the largest horticultural trade show in the world. They have something like 2,700 exhibitors from 143 countries, around 77,000 trade visitors, so the people you actually want to talk to. And it's across 27 halls, so if you imagine 27 football fields. Full disclaimer, I got lost for 2 days. It was horrific because there's so much to see. And actually, do you want to click it up? So here's the trickiest thing and the thing that blew my mind the most. They had an exhibitors VIP evening before the trade show even started. And the pictures on the left are where it was held, and it was 3 floors of a rave. Like they had a DJ, a disco ball, lights, open bar. I don't know if any of you have ever seen agriculturalists boogie on the dance floor to a DJ, but it was the trippiest thing I've ever seen. And I was gobsmacked because, you know, here when you go to a pre-event thing, we've got our canopies, we like network.
To be honest, I had said that we should come out to a rave, right?
Yeah.
Would wake everyone up. Kylie vetoed it. So.
It was stunning, but it also kind of showed they started how they mean to continue, and it was, you know, full of people that, yes, they were happy to see each other, but it put a whole different spin on horticulture that I've never, ever seen anywhere. And
how did that set it up, though, for those people that then attended the trade show?
Well, you know, realistically, you couldn't hear each other talk because it was so loud, and it was literally like you were at a rave, but it was energizing. Like, you went into it, just, you know, it's like, oh my God, hey, and you were dancing and shaking your booty and all sorts of stuff. So it literally kind of blew my mind that this is how they do it. And so when I went into the actual trade show without the rave and the DJs and stuff, it is, again, a real different beast. So I was told that up to a few years ago, everyone used to wear a suit and tie because it's a business. It is a serious, serious business. And I would look around these halls, and in my head, every conversation was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Every handshake was probably worth millions of dollars. I mean, it was serious. You had like your Dole and your Chiquita bananas, and you had representation from different countries who had whole halls dedicated to what they are doing with horticulture. And New Zealand was there. You know, we had we had plant and food research. We had, so Way Beyond was exhibiting, Hectare was exhibiting, and
do they go every year?
So this was Way Beyond's third year there. I spoke to Hectare when I was there and said, why are you here? You know, because it's not cheap, right? Coming from New Zealand, you've got to fly everyone out. They said they got return on investment day one, first hour of being there. So, hello. It is well worth going. But again, they do it really serious. And I was like, I'm not expecting everyone here to be in suits and ties when we do things, but I wondered whether we're approaching the business aspects as seriously as we could, because it was so impressive to see. I was absolutely stoked. And I mean, Zespri, massive stand. They've been there a couple of decades, I think. I said, well, why are you still here? Why do everyone knows who you are? And they said, because the one year we don't attend, everyone will think there's a problem. You know, they'll think, oh, you're not in our region anymore. Do you not care about your customers? Don't you want to form relationships? So it is really, really important that from a relationship perspective and connections, to be in the room, to shake the hands, to look in the eyes. And it is just such a great experience to be in, and I would highly recommend everyone go.
And was Robotics Plus there as well?
Good question. I want to say yes, but I don't know. I was like, I was probably lost, to be fair. And I self-funded myself to go because I'd wanted to go for 13 years, and I was tired of someone offering to pay for me to go. So I took myself there. And
then you shared that, though, didn't you? So there was more to the story than that.
So I was so enthusiastic, I shared it on my LinkedIn. The organisers of Fruit Logistica read it, and they got in touch, and they were so excited over my enthusiasm that I got like a VIP pass. They interviewed me when I was there. They wanted me to meet all these other people, and it wasn't because it was transactional. I didn't have anything to sell them or anything to buy. It was because I was genuinely enthusiastic about being there. And I felt, hand on heart, that I was representing New Zealand, and hopefully in a really positive way. But it was different. It's a real different thing. And until you step out of New Zealand borders and you see how the rest of the world play, it was great. It was so good. I could keep talking, but next.
Well, no, speaking of social media as well, like that showed the power of social media, right? Kylie posted this and was so excited about her first time. She wanted to go since you were, 13 years, wasn't it?
Since I was 13.
So she posted that on there. So they got in touch with her.
I'm so young. Next.
So I had a similar situation actually in India. So India, relationships are incredibly important. And here in New Zealand, we talk a lot about trade with India and having a free trade agreement, right? But an FTA only gives you that channel to market. It doesn't build those relationships or build the trust with the people you're wanting to trade with. And so I was in North India with a group of Nuffielders. So this was last year, actually, a year ago today that I was there. And there was about 12 of us, and it started off, actually. So we landed in India, and we'd gone through our immigration process. And we'd all put on the forms, we're here on a farm study tour. But we were a unique group for Nuffield. So we were one of the only groups where we were majority women and than men. So there were 9 women on the group and 3 men. So I happened to be the team leader that day. So we got stopped at the border. They wouldn't let us in. And
dodgy, so
this group of farmers, and they came out and they asked, right, who's the team leader? And I was like, that's me. It's me for today. And so they took me away into a little meeting room, and then they started grilling me. And they're like, why are you here? And I was like, well, we're doing a farm study tour. Here's our itinerary and everything. And then he looked at me. He's like, but you're women. That's what he said. And I was like, yeah, no, we are. We're here on this farm study tour, there's this Nuffield. And then they kind of got around to it. They were just really confused, right, about why it was us. And then they started getting really excited. So like, oh, you're going here and you're going here. And they took photocopies of our itinerary and everything. It was, yeah, and then they were sharing it with everybody, right? Because it was a bit quiet now since everyone else had left the airport. So, yeah, no, it was quite the experience. And that sort of played out quite a bit in the north because we went to one farm and what was really important for them was gifts. And not so much that we had to bring gifts to them, but they wanted to gift to us. And there was another farm we went to, and the men all got a gift, and none of the women did. So there was a few of those things, and that's what I'm trying to say with that is building relationships isn't always easy. You end up in these situations where it does feel strange, but that's the culture, and you have to work within that because you're trying to build relationships with them. And on the social media angle, yeah. So when we got out of one of the regional airports, we were in a different part of India, and we came out, and there was a bus, and this bus had our photos printed on the side. Right, we were on show, and they hadn't asked us for any photos. They took the first one they found on Google Images. So you can imagine the kind of photos that were on this bus. We were all just like, oh, what have they done? Yeah, we wanted to hide away.
But it was good for them, right? It was a proud moment.
Yeah, because they were really proud to be hosting us, and for them, having us there in market and visiting these farms and these politicians and that, they used that as a way to show their peers that they were successful, right? So for them, it was actually incredibly important that we were there. And I think I would say that to any of you. I know it's not cheap being there in market, but if you want to trade with Southeast Asia and with other countries, you need to be there. You need to form these relationships. And we've been talking about it these last couple of days. Yeah.
So you can get your face on the side of a bus as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And probably so the last place that I want to talk about is I was also really, really lucky to go to Spain, southern Spain, courtesy of NZTE. And AgriTech Group is the coolest place I've ever been to. If you can imagine, so they're a biotechnology R&D institution. It's like if you took plant and food research and you mix them with Google and Willy Wonka's chocolate factory and $1 billion, that is AgriTech Group. The photo on the bottom left is actually the entry on how you get in. There's a slide option and there's stairs. And they do this big show as it's like the world and food and things like this. And, those that are adventurous take the slide, and those that are slightly more conservative take the stairs. I took the stairs because I didn't want to ask plant on after the slide. And it is, but, and full disclosure, many of us actually, we were talking and we thought, are they all paid actors? Is it actual science? Because it was shiny and it was beautiful. And I mean, if you've been to, is anyone with Plant and Food in the room? Mark's not here? No. If you've been to Plant and Food, that building is from the 1970s. And it is what it is, right? But it doesn't necessarily scream modern, beautiful showcase of things. And this is what I loved. I mean,
So did you take a picture there of the men's bathroom as well?
No, that is a unisex bathroom, but I took the photo because that's the bathroom. It had brass, and it was we were all taking photos in the bathroom, which is quite weird. And the photo above is Daniel Kena, and he is a kiwi fruit grower for Zespri, and he was on the tour. And here's the thing: so everywhere we went, we had 2 Zespri people on the tour. When people found out that we had Zespri with us, they were like rock stars. On one of the farms, they were separated out and given a private tour. That is how, and we were like the peasants. We were kind of like, oh, yes, leftover. But, and Daniel said it at the end of the tour, he said, until you go outside the country and you see everyone else's reaction to New Zealand brands and that thing, he didn't realise everyone held the Zespri brand up so high until he saw it in person and the way people treated him. And it's a little bit like Ruth mentioned earlier in terms of, getting people outside of New Zealand to see how well regarded we are actually everywhere else. And we're our own worst critics. We really are. We treat ourselves like shit a lot of the times. And then you see people who want to take photos and interview you and are genuinely stoked to meet you. And it is the biggest ego-boosting, flag-waving, proudest thing you could ever imagine. And, so I had to mention that because, again, it is about continuing to build on those relationships and those connections that those of us that are privileged enough to get out there, we fly the flag really high so that others that follow behind us can continue to make those connections as well, and support the economy. So Kimatech Group, if you are ever in Almeria in Spain, definitely ask to go on a tour, go down the slide, whatever rocks your boat. And the coolest thing is they are really open to collaboration. So I know Plant and Food are going to hook up with them and do some work possibly around Horizon Europe funding. And it is amazing. And if I had $1 billion, I would give it to, other than myself, but Plant and Food to jazz it up. And it did. Mark is not in the room, right? So now Mark would love it if I gave him $1 billion. But it is, again, are we in a position to showcase the stuff we do? When we have delegations coming to New Zealand to connect, how many people could hands on heart say your business is in a position for me to bring people through and show, the awesome stuff you do? And they're really, really good at it. So, some learnings there anyway.
Yeah, so probably just to finish, we'll just do our closing comments because we could give our stories for all night.
If Mike can't connect, we'll just stay here and just keep talking.
Yeah, we'll just give you some more stories.
Yeah.
So COVID, right? COVID, the elephant in the room. COVID stalled us, and it stalled everybody, or a lot of people. With COVID, we did a really good job trying to maintain as many relationships as we could, because you can do that online. If you've met the people before, you can do it through Teams, you can do it through Skype. But you don't grow relationships that way, and it's really hard to build new ones. Right, so I would encourage you to, build this into your plans. So go overseas, meet your clients and your customers in those markets, because ultimately that's who we're selling to. Right, both our products and our ideas. So build that in. It's really important to be there in market and to show that we care about those people and care about our customers.
Yeah, and like I say it often, my role is a bit like AgriTinder, and don't tell Tinder I'm using that word. And just to preface, it's about long-term business relationships, not overnight relationships. And it's one of these things like you imagine the sort of dating scenario, first base, second base, third base. We need to go through the bases. No one's going to put a ring on it if they don't know your name. So it is the biggest thing there. And, I would be surprised if in your budgets and your strategies, you've built in maintenance for relationships, not just sales. I'm not talking sales. It is, have you included that connection piece, the relationship building piece, and the maintenance piece, because you've got to keep these relationships going, like a date for marriage and a ring on it, something like that. So I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's our spiel on relationships.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening.